The sky hung low, heavy with clouds that looked like they'd been soaked in sorrow. A cold wind whispered through the trees, rustling dry leaves across the pavement in a mournful dance. It was late afternoon, and the city seemed to be holding its breath. In the middle of the park, sitting alone on a weathered wooden bench, was a little girl, no more than 7. Her dress was light blue but stained with dirt. Her shoes were scuffed, untied. Her face was hidden behind her small hands, shoulders trembling with quiet sobs. She didn't make a sound, but the sadness around her was deafening. From a distance, a tall man in a tailored black coat paused mid-stride. His name was Victor Hale, a billionaire, one of the richest and most mysterious men in the country. He wasn't the kind of person you'd expect to see in a public park, let alone walking alone, without bodyguards or paparazzi. But that day, Victor had taken a different route, a quieter one. Something in him told him to slow down, and then he saw her. The sight of the crying girl pierced through him like cold steel. He stood still, watching her. His throat tightened. Memories he had long buried began to crawl back to the surface. Memories of nights alone in foster homes, of being forgotten in places that didn't care if you lived or vanished. Without really knowing why, Victor walked over and sat down at the far end of the bench. He said nothing at first, just watched the world pass by in silence, as if giving the girl space to breathe. After a long pause, he spoke, his voice low, gentle. "Are you okay?" She didn't answer. Her face stayed hidden. He tried again. "Are you lost?" A slight shake of the head. "No." Victor glanced at her, unsure. He was a man used to negotiating billion-dollar deals, not comforting crying children in the cold. But something about this little girl anchored him to the moment. He couldn't walk away. "Waiting for someone?" he asked softly. Still no answer. He took off his coat and carefully laid it beside her on the bench. The air was crisp, and her arms were bare. Minutes passed. Then finally, in a barely audible whisper, she spoke. "I don't have anywhere to go." Victor turned toward her. "What do you mean?" "My mom left yesterday," she said, her voice trembling. "She said she'd be back soon, but she never came back." Victor leaned forward slowly. "And where do you live?" "I was staying with my uncle. But this morning he told me I was too much trouble. He said I should go wait in the park, that someone would come." Victor's jaw clenched. He looked at the child in front of him. Not just abandoned, but discarded like trash. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind, but one emotion overpowered them all. Anger. Not the kind that explodes, the kind that smolders deep inside. "What's your name?" he asked. "Luna," she replied, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. "That's a beautiful name," he said gently. "I'm Victor." She didn't respond, just stared down at her worn-out shoes, shivering slightly. Victor exhaled. He had built empires, sat at tables with presidents, but right now none of that mattered. There was a child who needed someone, and for some reason fate had put him there. "Are you hungry?" he asked. She nodded slowly. He stood and offered his hand. She looked at it, hesitated, then finally reached out and took it. Victor led her to a nearby diner. The waitress looked puzzled seeing the billionaire walk in with a disheveled little girl, but he gave her a look that said, "Don't ask." They sat at a booth by the window. He ordered her pancakes, orange juice, and hot chocolate. She ate, slowly at first, but then faster, like someone who hadn't had a proper meal in days. Victor watched, a lump in his throat growing with every bite she took. After she finished, he asked gently, "How long were you in the park?" "Since yesterday morning," she said, licking syrup from her fingers. "I slept on the bench." Victor leaned back in his seat, trying to suppress the rage boiling inside him. The world had failed her. Completely. He pulled out his phone. "James, clear my schedule. Indefinitely," he said sharply. "And send the car to the diner on Elm Street. I'm not going back to the office today. No, this can't wait." He ended the call. Luna looked at him curiously. Are you famous? Victor chuckled, the first time he'd laughed in weeks. Something like that? She smiled, just a little. When the car arrived, he helped her inside and fastened her seatbelt like she was something precious. As the car rolled through the city streets, she turned to him. Where are we going? Victor looked out the window, then down at her. Her small hand was gripping his coat, like it was the last thing anchoring her to this world, to a place where no one will ever leave you alone again. But what Victor didn't know, what no one could have guessed, was that Luna carried a truth. A secret that would not only change her life forever, but his as well. The car hummed softly beneath them, a cocoon of warmth and silence cutting through the cold city. Luna leaned against the window, her small eyes wide as she watched the world blur by. Storefronts, streetlights, people rushing through the rain. But her hand never left Victor's coat. She held on like it was her last thread to safety. Victor sat still, gazing at her through the corner of his eye. He couldn't shake the feeling. This wasn't just a chance meeting. It felt orchestrated, by something beyond logic. For a man who didn't believe in signs, he was beginning to. The car pulled up to a gated estate on the edge of the city. Towering iron gates opened slowly to reveal a long driveway flanked by ancient oaks and soft lights that flickered through the mist. At the end of the drive stood a mansion of gray stone and glass, both majestic and quietly sad. Luna's eyes grew wide. Is this a hotel? Victor smiled faintly. No, it's home. Inside, the place was a cathedral of silence. High ceilings, marble floors, walls adorned with paintings too expensive to name. But despite its beauty, the house felt empty. Too many rooms, too much space, like it had been waiting for something to fill it. Victor knelt beside her in the foyer. You'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure things out. Luna hesitated. I don't want to go back. You won't, he promised. Not ever. He led her to a guest room on the second floor, a soft, warm space with a four-poster bed, shelves filled with books, and a fireplace that glowed quietly in the corner. You can pick any pajamas you like from the closet, Victor said. And if you need anything, I'm down the hall. You're safe here, Luna. Really. As he turned to leave, her voice stopped him. Victor. He looked back. Why are you helping me? That question lingered in the air like smoke. He could have said anything, that he had money, that he had time, that he was bored, but instead he said, because when I was your age, no one helped me. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. He paced the halls of his home, the sound of rain tapping against the glass like a lullaby for the lost. His mind spun with questions. Where was Luna's mother? Could they find her? Would she come back? But another voice, darker, quieter, whispered, what if she didn't want to? In the morning, Luna was up before the sun, sitting on the floor in the library with a picture book open on her lap. Victor found her there, hair messy, eyes bright. You like to read? He asked. She nodded. I used to read to my mom before bed. Victor sat down beside her. What happened to your dad? She looked down. Never met him. It hit him then. This wasn't just about one night. This was a life unraveling. A girl who had been surviving on hope thinner than paper. A child on the edge of disappearing forever. By noon, Victor had made calls, first to his lawyers, then to child services, then to a private investigator named Morgan. He wanted answers. Background checks, tracking on the mother, medical records, school history, everything. By afternoon, Morgan called back. Victor, she said cautiously, we found something. His heart pounded. Go on. Luna's mother has a long record. Drugs, arrests, abusive partners. She's been in and out of shelters. The uncle she mentioned? He was reported once for neglect. Nothing ever stuck. But here's the worst part. Victor braced himself. There's no active search for Luna. No one filed a missing persons report. It felt like the world tilted. No one's looking for her? He asked in disbelief. No one, Morgan said. It's like she vanished and no one noticed. Victor hung up and stared out the window. fists clenched. He remembered how many times he'd been overlooked, forgotten, how easily a child could slip through the cracks if no one cared. But someone cared now. That evening, Victor brought Luna a box. She opened it slowly and gasped. Inside was a plush white bunny with floppy ears and a ribbon around its neck. Her eyes lit up. "What's its name?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "Snow." Victor nodded. "Perfect." Then he handed her another box, this one larger. She opened it to find art supplies, paints, brushes, sketchbooks. Her fingers trembled as she touched them. "I used to draw with my mom," she whispered. "You can draw anything here," he said. "The walls, the floors, the sky. This house is yours now, too." Later that night, while she slept curled up with Snow in her arms, Victor stood by the door watching her. He saw something he hadn't seen in years. Not just in her, but in himself. Hope. Real, stubborn hope. But he also knew this was only the beginning. Something deep inside told him Luna's story wasn't as simple as it seemed, and that her past hadn't finished chasing her yet. Because sometimes the ones who leave you behind come back. 3 days passed. 3 perfect, quiet days. Luna began to bloom like a flower starved for sunlight. She painted every morning in the garden room, ran through the hallways barefoot, and giggled at Victor's confused face when she served him imaginary tea on a silver tray. The mansion, once filled with echoes and silence, now held music, the soft kind that only a child's laughter can make. Victor had never known peace like this. The man who once chased deals and deadlines now woke up early just to see a little girl smile at breakfast. But peace never lasts, not when the past has claws. It started with a knock, not the kind you expect, not the friendly knock of neighbors or deliveries. This one was loud, sharp, violent. Victor opened the door, and there she was, a woman, disheveled, lips cracked, hair tangled into knots. A faded black hoodie covered most of her face, but her eyes, those eyes were Luna's eyes. Haunted. Familiar. "You Victor Hayes?" She spat, swaying slightly. "I am. I heard you got my kid." The air went still. Victor's hand clenched, around the doorframe. "Who are you?" "I'm her mother," she snapped. "Now give her back." Her name was Angela Ray, and she looked like someone life had chewed up and spat out more than once. Her words were slurred, her skin pale with track marks faint under her sleeves. But Victor didn't judge. Not yet. "Where have you been?" he asked coldly. She scoffed. "Doesn't matter. What matters is she's mine." She was alone, crying, cold. "You left her in a park in the middle of the night." Angela laughed bitterly. "That's rich coming from some suit in a castle. You think you know what it's like out there?" Victor didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than her screaming. "Let me see her," she demanded. Victor didn't move. "You're not sober." She stepped forward, rage flashing in her eyes. "You think you can keep her from me? I'm her mother. I'll call the cops. I'll make noise you can't buy your way out of." "I already did," Victor replied calmly. "They know everything. I filed emergency custody papers. You're free to challenge them in court. When you're clean." Angela's breath caught. Her voice lowered to a rasp. "You don't know what she means to me." Victor's voice was ice. "Then why did you leave her?" For a moment, the fire left her. Her shoulders slumped. Her eyes clouded. "I thought she'd be better off." She turned and disappeared down the steps, swallowed by the fog. But Victor knew she'd be back. Inside, Luna was in the library coloring a field of tulips. She looked up when Victor entered, sensing the tension on his face. "Was that her?" she asked softly. Victor nodded. Luna put her crayon down. "Is she okay?" He hesitated. "She's not ready yet, but she came." Luna looked out the window. "I miss the way she used to hold me, before the bad days." Victor sat beside her. "Sometimes love is broken, but that doesn't mean you are." That night, Victor couldn't sleep again. He called Morgan, his investigator. I want to know everything about Angela. Every rehab, every arrest, every missed visit to school. Morgan hesitated. Victor, are you trying to destroy her? No, he replied. I'm trying to see if she can be saved. A week passed. Angela didn't return, but something worse did. A man showed up. Rough, leather jacket, scar across his lip. He claimed to be Luna's uncle, Tommy. Said he was looking out for her. Victor saw through him in seconds. She ain't safe here with some billionaire playing house, Tommy growled. We're family. Where were you when she slept on concrete? Victor asked. Tommy narrowed his eyes. People talk, rich boy. Maybe I talk too. Maybe the press hears about the kid you stole. Victor stepped closer. Calm. Dangerous. Try me. Tommy backed off, but not before leaving a threat hanging in the air like poison. Later that night, Victor installed more cameras, more locks. He doubled the security. He wasn't taking chances. He sat Luna down gently, explained that people from her past were showing up, that they might say things, lie, pretend. I don't care about them, she whispered. I don't want to go. You won't, he said, not while I breathe. But deep inside, a war had begun, between legal documents and bloodlines, between what was right and what was lawful. The next day, a letter arrived. Court summons. Angela had filed for custody. The courthouse was cold, not in temperature, no. It was the kind of cold that crept into your bones when strangers decided the fate of something you loved. Victor adjusted his tie, eyes scanning the sterile hallway where Luna clung to his hand. Like it was the only safe thing left in the world. Angela was there too, different this time, cleaner, sober maybe. Her hair was combed, her hoodie replaced with a blouse and long skirt. She kept her eyes low, shoulders tight. Next to her stood a court-appointed attorney and a social worker. Victor had hired the best child advocacy lawyer in the city. But he wasn't thinking about victory. He was thinking about Luna and how much more of this her tiny heart could take. The judge was a woman. Stern, gray-eyed. She looked tired, like she'd seen too many parents fail and too many children pay the price. Angela went first. She spoke softly, told the court how she fell into addiction after her partner died in a fire, how grief turned to pills, pills to needles, and time became a blur. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She simply said, I was a bad mother, but I'm getting better. The courtroom held its breath. Victor's lawyer rose. She didn't attack. She didn't shame. Instead, she showed photos, Luna drawing in the garden, baking cookies, dancing in the hallway in socks too big. She described the therapy sessions, the doctor's reports, Luna's words. I feel safe with Mr. Hayes. Then Victor spoke. He didn't talk about money or power or his mansion. He told them about a little girl crying in the dark and how that sound broke something inside him, how Luna saved him more than he saved her. And then the judge turned to Luna. Her voice was barely a whisper. I want to stay with Victor. Please. Angela lowered her head. The judge took a long pause. I'll allow temporary custody to remain with Mr. Hayes, she said. Ms. Ray, you'll undergo supervised visitation and continue your rehab. In 6 months, we will review. It wasn't a victory. It was borrowed time. Victor walked Luna out of the courthouse under a gray sky. She squeezed his hand and smiled, but he saw it, that quiet fear still clinging to her eyes. That night, Victor sat by the fire, whiskey untouched beside him. His lawyer's words echoed in his head. She has rights. If she proves stability, the court may favor reunification. He looked at Luna sleeping on the couch, clutching a stuffed bear they'd won at a street fair. And for the first time in years, Victor prayed. Not to win, but for the strength not to break. The months that followed tested every ounce of that strength. Angela came for her supervised visits twice a week. At first, Luna refused to speak to her, but kids are strange creatures. They carry pain in small packages and sometimes set it down unexpectedly. One day, Luna gave her a flower, another day, a drawing. By the third month, they were talking. Laughing even. Victor watched from the sidelines. His heart twisted every time Luna hugged her mother. It was beautiful. And brutal. Angela was trying. He saw that. The court reports were clean. The therapist noted progress. She was volunteering at a women's shelter, taking classes, staying sober. One evening after a session, Angela approached Victor outside. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. "I know you love her," she added. "And I know she loves you. I'm not trying to erase that." Victor stayed silent. Angela looked away. "But I want to be her mom again." And just like that, the panic returned. Victor spiraled. He hired more lawyers, asked them to dig deeper, to challenge everything. But every door they opened led back to the same truth. Angela was changing, for real. That should have brought him peace. Instead, it brought terror. Because for the first time since he met Luna, the possibility of losing her was real. One night, as he sat on the porch staring into the dark, Luna climbed into his lap. "Will she take me away?" she asked. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I want to stay," she whispered. Victor held her tighter than ever before. "Then we fight." And fight he did. He hired therapists, created journals of Luna's progress. He recorded every milestone, every moment of joy and healing. He built not just a case, but a life story. One that proved love wasn't about blood. It was about showing up. The final court date arrived. 6 months had passed. Angela looked stronger than ever. She stood tall, confident. Luna sat between them, eyes flicking nervously. The judge didn't speak right away. She reviewed reports, pages and pages of them. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "This is the most difficult custody case I've seen in years." She looked at Luna. "You have 2 people who love you. One who gave you life, one who gave you hope." Everyone in the room leaned forward. "I am granting joint custody," Angela gasped. Victor's heart stopped. "Ms. Ray, you will have custody for weekends and 1 weekday. Mr. Hayes will remain the primary guardian with full authority over school and medical decisions. This arrangement will be reevaluated in 1 year." Luna turned to Victor, her eyes flooded with tears. "I get to stay?" He nodded, and she leapt into his arms. Angela approached them slowly. She kneeled beside Luna. "I'll never stop trying to be better. For you." Luna hugged her mother tightly. Victor looked at both of them, 2 broken hearts trying to mend together, and in that moment he realized, this wasn't a loss. This was grace. A year passed. Seasons changed. Winter melted into spring. The house felt warmer, not because of the sun, but because of laughter. The kind of laughter that healed instead of just echoing through empty walls. Victor had changed too. He no longer lived as a man haunted by success. He was no longer the lonely millionaire who collected timepieces and avoided mirrors. He was now simply Dad, the man who burned pancakes on Saturdays and braided hair poorly before school. The man who sat through endless school plays and cried every time Luna brought home a drawing titled, "My Family." Angela became a steady figure in Luna's life. She never missed a visit. She sent handwritten letters between them. She stayed clean. She kept her word. There were hard days. Of course there were. Sometimes Luna would cry without knowing why. Sometimes Angela would show up with red eyes and shaky hands, but still show up. And Victor had to learn that love meant sharing, even when your heart wanted to protect everything forever. One evening after Luna's 9th birthday, Victor tucked her into bed under a canopy of fairy lights. She looked up at him and asked, "Will I live here forever?" He paused. "Do you want to?" She nodded, eyes wide. "Then I'll do everything I can to make sure of it." And he meant it, because forever isn't something you say. It's something you fight for every day. Months later, the judge called for a final custody review. Victor didn't panic this time. Instead, he prepared something different. Not legal documents, not therapist notes or academic records. He prepared memories. He brought photos of Luna's garden, the scrapbook they'd built together, videos of her reading bedtime stories to the rescue dog they'd adopted. Angela brought letters from her support group, a letter from her sponsor, and one from her pastor. The judge listened. When she finally spoke, she didn't read a verdict. She looked at Luna and asked, "Where do you feel most safe?" Luna looked at Victor. "With him," she said. Then turned to Angela. "But I love Mommy too." Angela's lips trembled. The judge smiled gently. "Then we honor both." She declared permanent dual guardianship. Victor and Angela would share custody, equal rights, equal love. Victor closed his eyes. Not because he lost, but because for the first time in his life, he felt whole. The years that followed unfolded like a storybook stitched from broken pages. Victor opened a foundation in Luna's name. The Luna Light Fund, dedicated to helping homeless children find shelter, therapy, and permanent homes. Angela became a counselor there. Her story became one of resilience and redemption. Luna flourished. At age 12, she won a citywide art contest for a painting titled, "My Two Homes, One Heart." At 14, she wrote an essay called, "The Man Who Found Me in the Park." Victor, read it in his study, tears falling freely. In it, Luna wrote, "Some people are born fathers. Others become them the moment they choose you over themselves. Victor Hayes didn't save me from the world. He gave me the world back. One bedtime, story at a time." On her 18th birthday, they sat by the same bench where it all began. Luna was taller now, full of fire and grace. Angela sat beside her, hands folded, quiet. Victor handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a locket. On one side, a photo of Luna, aged 6, the day after they left the park. On the other, an engraving. Forever isn't a promise. It's a choice. She closed her eyes, held the locket close and whispered, "You both chose me, every single day." Victor didn't speak. His throat was too tight. Angela wiped her eyes. "And we always will." Years passed. Luna went to college, studied social work, traveled to war-torn countries offering aid. She built homes, told stories, brought light into darkness. Victor grew older. His temples grayed, hands slowed, but his eyes still lit up every time Luna called him Dad. On a quiet morning, sitting on the porch overlooking the city, Luna returned home. She knelt beside him, placed her hand on his. "I'm adopting a little girl," she said. "Her name's Aaliyah. She lost everything in a fire." Victor looked at her, his daughter, his miracle. "You sure you're ready?" he asked. Luna nodded. "I learned from the best." And so the cycle of broken hearts turning whole began again. Not in courts, not with lawyers, but with one man who refused to walk past a crying child. A man who traded wealth for love, power for purpose. A lonely bench in the park had become a bridge between despair and destiny. And in that story, maybe we all find a piece of ourselves. Because sometimes, the richest hearts aren't the ones full of gold. They're the ones brave enough to give it away.